So I'm going to be showing you guys how you can make bread today. We're going to do 3 different shapes, one recipe, but we're going to have rolls. We're going to have what I call sandwich rolls, but they resemble French bread in the shape. And then we're also going to have a loaf of bread. The ingredients are pretty simple. It's water, sugar or a liquid sugar. I've used honey and agave. They work fine. Oil, the oil doesn't matter. You just want to make sure it has a smoke point above 375 because that's the temperature that we're going to bake the bread at. Yeast and salt. Salt, again, doesn't matter. And the yeast also doesn't matter. If you don't have a quick yeast, then you can just make sure you wait a little bit later so that your yeast can rise. And the process is simple. You want to start out by activating the yeast. That's usually what you do for most bread recipes. For that, you need the warm medium, which is going to be water. It can sometimes be milk. You want to dissolve the sugar or mix the sugar well in that mixture. And then you add the yeast and mix that around. It doesn't have to be very well, but you want it so that the yeast can be thoroughly mixed into the mixture and activate correctly. The temperature is going to be key. You don't want it too hot because that can kill the yeast. The yeast likes the sugar to feed on, and it likes the warm environment to help it to do its thing, which makes the bread rise. And so you want it just to where it's a little bit less than what you would consider too hot to keep your hands under, if that makes sense. I'm just using water from the tap, but you can actually go ahead and boil the water and let it cool off some to use it for this recipe. Start with 4 cups of warm water. We are then going to add half a cup of some kind of sweetener. Now, you can use sugar, that's what the recipe usually calls for, but I like to use honey in place of it. And I'm just going to fill up this cup halfway, or what I think is half. I'm going to put that into the water as much as we can get. And then we're going to do 4 tablespoons of yeast. Now I find that this recipe does work with less yeast. But, so if you're in a pinch, maybe use 3 tablespoons. I've used as little as 2.5, but you know what? I'm changing it as I'm doing it. I'm just going to go ahead and use 3. So we're just going to mix it. Just stir it. There still are going to be little clumps and everything like that. But you just want to make sure that the sugar is mixed in so that the yeast has something to feed on. We're going to wait 10 minutes. It should come, when we come back, it should be foaming or frothy, and it should be with bubbles. I'm not sure if you can see this. This is what it'll look like, even along the sides of the bowl. And I can show you even the little bit that were left on the spoon. So what we're going to do is we're going to add in the oil, which is 5 tablespoons. And I'm going to just go ahead and put in about 4 cups of flour to this mixture, a little less. Then we're going to mix it up, and it's going to be very watery, and then we're just going to keep adding in. So I'm going to go ahead and add about 2 cups. They're not full cups. The next times I'll add 1 and see what the mixture looks like. And because I chose this big bowl, I'm going to be able to knead it in this bowl as well. Let's add 1 more. They'll probably be ready to start kneading with our hands. Right now we're probably about 6.5. I'm going to go ahead and add in 1 more. And I'm gonna start working with my hands at this point. So what I like to do is get some flour directly on my hands just to help with the sticking that I'm anticipating. And it just makes it easier to clean the spoon as well with flour. And you want the dough to be very elastic. You want to get rid of this stickiness. So that's probably all that I will need. We shall see. It's still very sticky. So this is what I said looking for, when it doesn't stick as much to the bowl. I have so much on my hands right now. Okay. To where we can get everything, the bowl cleaned when we're doing this. And I kind of do some lazy kneading. That's because I couldn't get my hands tired. And you can see it pushes back at you. I don't know how great this footage is gonna come out. So that's about what we want. Just gonna try and get as much as I can off of my hands now. And I find with this, I do like to leave it pretty much as little as I have to add. That's the way I like it. As little bit of flour as you need to add. Try to work with it. So this might be a little stickier than what you would normally use. But I like to just kind of go with it and try to work with it if I can. Now we allow this dough to rise until it's about double in size, usually about an hour. I keep this leftover bag of flour just so I continuously can use it over and over again until it's all gone. I just use this simply for dough. You just want to flour your work surface so it's clean and dry. If not, you would see kind of clumps. Just trying to make sure it's everywhere. This is a dough cutter, also called pastry cutter. You don't have to use that. You can use a knife. This is how my dough has risen. And because you oiled it, it will come out pretty nice and clean. So I'm stuck with this big blob. So I usually just, and you always want to get some on your hand. So hand. Because I've done this, I'll probably need more on the surface because it just soaks it up. But I just try to get it into a nice big old ball. Let's get the rest of this. Okay, so we have it in a nice size ball. This is for 4 loaves, so I'm going to go ahead and do it in half. And then do those in half. And they are very sticky. Now some of these look a little, like these look like they are a little tad bit bigger, but that'll be okay. I'm going to use this one for my 1 roll. So usually I just kind of cut it out with your hand. That's why you borrow your hand. And I also just kind of pick it up and just kind of get it into a nice little rectangle. And then hopefully you can see I'm just kind of folding it over like this. You put it into the pan. Let's say that was a little bit more than I usually have. I'm just flattening it out. And I'm just gonna let it rise a little bit above the pan because I want it to resemble the ones from the store, and usually it's a little bit smaller. So we're gonna we'll use this for some rolls. And I just kind of know what size I like to usually have, but some of them will be uneven, so you can kind of borrow from some as well. So mostly I just like to, like I did before, kind of thin it out. I like to go ahead and pinch the corners in, go ahead and roll it, and then put it in my little container. You don't even have to do that. You can just roll it into a ball as well. It depends on how much time I have, how much I'm rushing, how I'll do it. You want them about the same size. Usually what I'll do is, because I don't like to just redo them, I'll just make one section for smaller ones, one section for bigger ones. But this one is more dough. Wait, like I said, you don't have to. I find it look okay either way. Hold on, but more flour. It's gonna rise nicely. But yeah, that one's a little bit bigger. But just trying to go ahead. I'm doing this, making a whole bunch at a time just to make it more, stick it to me, just to make it more convenient. And I also do make batches. Like I'll just sometimes make 4 loaves just so I can freeze 3 and use 1. Now the batches, they don't last very long. You want to let them cool off before you put them in the bag, because if it still is warm, it's going to add moisture. But it'll probably stay 3 to 5 days. It's not what you get from the store. So you guys will have to forgive me that the faucet, hopefully it wasn't blocking too much of what I was doing. So this is what we have left. We're going to turn this into the little, yeah, we'll do that. I could borrow from this one. I'm just looking at it. I do kind of want to take a little less from it, but we'll go ahead and keep it like that. Now there isn't a perfect science. Actually, I think I'm going to go ahead and keep this one exactly as it is, because it is a good size. And I have this, it's supposed to be for making hot dogs with, as you can see. Unless you have the jumbo size hot dogs, it's not going to be ideal for that. But it is good for my little sandwiches. Now these sandwiches are going to be smaller because of, I can tell by the amount of dough that they're going to be. fine for us to use as needed. So try to stretch it out, add it out, and that's that. So like the first time, we're gonna let these rise. For the first bowl, you can either just put it in the microwave, it won't really dry out, but you can put a cloth over it, or you can put it in the oven. Now, once I'm waiting for them to shape, I like to put them in the oven so I don't have to risk them deflating while I'm trying to move them. So once they look like this, we can start 375 for 25 minutes. And the one thing I love is the shapes weren't perfect, but once they rise, they look great. So the recipe calls for about 25 minutes, but a rule of thumb, if you can smell what you're cooking, it's ready. Yeah, I fumbled a little bit. I was trying to show you guys I was using unsalted butter. I'm just gonna go ahead and smooth that along the top. You wanna be careful because they are still very pliable, and so you don't want to deflate them by trying to rub the butter on top. I'm guessing you can also do this with oil if you wanted to, and you can sprinkle on some Italian seasonings or any kind of spices that you like, even maybe be a little light and add some sea salt. It's, you know, you're the boss, so you can do whatever you like. So I'm just showing you that here. Now, I did take them out about 22-ish minutes. The rolls don't look as browned, but they are completely done. The bottom will be done before the top if you don't put an egg wash or anything like that to add the color and to aid in the browning. Then that is what you will get if you have them on the lower rack like I do. But it's because I'm cooking a bunch of things at a time. And so just from doing this one process, I have rolls that I can now use or freeze. I have a loaf of bread and I have some sandwich loaves as well that I can use. And so I truly think this process is worth doing. Usually I do it and I can do it for a week. Every week usually is what I was doing when I was in the rotation. But you can of course do it less. You can do loaves one week and have 4, and if you use once a month, that can be good. And then do rolls the next time and you'll have enough for the month, and so forth. And so that's what I try to do. I just kind of switch it up and look at the dough and figure out what I want to do with it. I've even made it to where it's more sugary and sweeter, and I'm just showing you what the loaves look like. They're nice and light and fluffy. And you just want to be careful when you're dealing with them when they're hot, because you can change the shape of them. So it is just something that's very versatile, very easy. You can tweak it. Once you know what you like and what you don't like, you can decide how you want to do it. And if you like to have the rolls where you kind of bake them fresh instead of just defrosting them and heating them up, which works great too, then you can do it halfway and mark them so that you can finish cooking the next time. Just put them directly in. So it is very versatile and it's worth the effort. So let me know if you guys decide to try it. And thank you, of course, for watching.